The luxury cruise ship Blue Star gleamed under the early morning sun, docked at the New York harbor with a sense of majesty and promise. The ship was enormous, stretching as far as the eye could see, with sleek, modern lines and a polished exterior that sparkled in the light. It wasn't just another ship. This was a floating city designed to handle the wildest adventures while still keeping its passengers connected to the rest of the world. Among the passengers boarding were two familiar faces to those who tuned in for the latest news and adventure stories. Emma, a bright-eyed reporter with a quick wit, was pulling a large suitcase while gesturing animatedly at her companion, Mark, the laid-back, sharp-minded photographer. Mark followed her closely, lugging his camera equipment with practiced ease, his usual cool expression betraying a hint of excitement as he glanced up at the massive ship. "Can you believe they actually invited us on this thing?" Emma grinned, giving Mark an excited nudge. "This ship has a communication system so advanced, they say you could live stream from the middle of the ocean without a glitch." Mark chuckled, adjusting his camera bag. "Or until it hits a storm and everything goes dark," he teased. "You and your obsession with streaming, Emma. I'm just here to capture the beauty of the ocean, maybe get some award-winning shots along the way." Emma rolled her eyes. "You know our audience loves the live updates. Besides, this isn't just any cruise. It's the Blue Star, world's first luxury cruise with state-of-the-art tech on board. Our viewers want to feel like they're right here with us." As they climbed the ramp onto the ship, the hum of activity on board was almost contagious. Guests were settling in, and crew members were everywhere, politely guiding passengers to their suites or giving quick safety instructions. Families took selfies, while couples pointed at the view, captivated by the thought of their romantic journey across the Atlantic. Emma, eager to start, grabbed Mark by the arm and led him toward the ship's main deck, where she knew the view would be breathtaking. "Come on, we need a good intro shot before we leave the harbor. Imagine the view with New York City in the background and the ship pulling away. Our followers will eat it up." They reached the main deck, where the city skyline framed the horizon beautifully, skyscrapers glittering against the soft blue sky. Mark quickly set up his camera, his expert eye finding the perfect angles as Emma rehearsed her opening lines, occasionally making silly faces at him to break his serious concentration. "All right, ready?" Mark asked, holding up his hand to count down. Emma nodded, taking a deep breath, then flashed a professional smile at the camera as Mark hit record. "Good morning, everyone. This is Emma Lane reporting live from the Blue Star, the world's most advanced cruise ship, setting sail today from New York to London. Behind me, you can see the iconic skyline of New York City, and soon the vast open ocean. My partner Mark and I will be taking you along for an unforgettable journey, showing you the highlights of life at sea." As she spoke, she could feel the energy of the moment. The ship's horn gave a deep, resonant sound that vibrated through the air, signaling the start of the voyage. Cheers erupted around them as the ship began to move, slowly leaving the harbor and venturing into open waters. Emma wrapped up her introduction, giving a playful wink to the camera before Mark cut the feed. "Not bad, huh?" she asked, laughing. Mark grinned, packing up his camera. "You have a way with words, Emma. You'll have everyone wishing they were here." "Just doing my job," she replied with a grin. "And speaking of jobs, what do you say we explore a little before we start the next segment? We might find some hidden gems on this ship." With that, they wandered the decks, marveling at the elegant design of the Blue Star. They passed grand ballrooms, gourmet restaurants, an expansive pool area, and even a small library tucked away for those seeking a quiet escape. Each corner of the ship seemed to reveal something new and remarkable. As they strolled, Emma and Mark chatted, laughing and sharing stories about their past assignments. It felt like a new adventure lay before them, and they were determined to capture every moment for their audience. Little did they know, however, that their journey was about to take an unexpected and dangerous turn. But for now, with the sun shining brightly and the city fading into the distance, everything seemed perfect. The Blue Star glided smoothly over the water, carrying its passengers toward an adventure that none of them would soon forget. The Blue Star was well into its journey, gliding smoothly over calm waters, with the horizon stretching endlessly ahead. Inside, guests were settling into routines of leisure and exploration, eager to experience everything the luxury ship had to offer. Emma and Mark were both busy capturing the excitement, interviewing guests, and sharing live updates with viewers. Emma was just wrapping up an interview with a family when her phone buzzed in her pocket. She glanced at the notification and frowned, feeling a knot tighten in her stomach. It was an urgent alert. A severe storm system had developed unexpectedly and was moving toward the ship's projected path. Emma's instincts kicked in. She had covered difficult stories before, but this time she was in the middle of the story and in the middle of the ocean. She quickly located Mark, who was adjusting his camera gear nearby. "We have a situation," she said quietly, showing him the alert. "A massive storm. It's coming our way." Mark's face shifted from casual to concerned. "Have they told the passengers yet?" Emma shook her head. "I'm not sure. Let's find the captain and see what the plan is." The two of them made their way toward the ship's bridge, where Captain Hughes was conferring with his crew over a map displayed on a large digital screen. His face was serious as he traced a potential new route, aiming to steer the ship around the worst of the storm. He looked up as Emma and Mark entered, offering a brief, reassuring nod. "Captain," Emma began, holding up her microphone, "would you mind sharing a few words with our viewers? People are already hearing rumors, and they need to know what's going on." Captain Hughes considered this for a moment, then spoke in a calm, steady voice. "Yes, we've just received news of a severe storm in our path," he said, his tone both confident and authoritative. "We're preparing to change course, but there are some adjustments we need to make to ensure everyone's safety." "But Captain," Emma said, lowering her voice so only he could hear, "is it safe to continue broadcasting right now?" The captain hesitated. "If we adjust our route immediately, we'll be fine," he replied. "But delaying might complicate things. For now, it's important to keep everyone calm." Emma nodded, understanding the delicate balance between informing the passengers and keeping them calm. With a quick glance to Mark, they hurried back to the main deck to begin their broadcast. Standing before the camera, Emma put on a reassuring smile, channeling every ounce of her professionalism. Mark gave her a thumbs up, signaling he was ready to start. "Hello, everyone," she began, keeping her voice calm. "We've just received word of an unexpected weather system developing ahead of us. Our captain and crew are already taking steps to change our route to keep us safe. There's no reason to worry. This ship is well equipped for any situation." She turned to a few passengers standing nearby, offering a gentle smile. "Would anyone like to share their thoughts? We're all in this together, after all." A young woman stepped forward, her expression a mix of nerves and excitement. "I guess we'll be telling quite the story when we get back home," she said, chuckling nervously. "As long as we have the captain on our side, I'm sure we'll be fine." Emma smiled, nodding. Exactly. We're in capable hands here. This ship is designed to handle storms far worse than this one. As she continued interviewing passengers, Mark panned his camera across the crowd, capturing moments of laughter, chatter, and small gestures of comfort between strangers. It was clear that Emma's presence was helping people feel a bit more at ease, and even Mark was impressed by her ability to keep everyone calm. Yet beneath the surface, there was an undeniable tension, a thin thread of worry running through the air. Emma could sense it too. Despite her assurances, people couldn't ignore the darkening clouds on the horizon. When they finally finished the broadcast, Emma exhaled a deep breath. That should help, at least for now, she said, turning to Mark. But I'll admit, I'm a bit nervous myself. Mark glanced at her, a rare hint of seriousness in his eyes. We'll be okay, but I think it's time we prepare for whatever might come next. They both stood there for a moment, watching as the first hints of choppy waves appeared, the horizon no longer calm and serene. The evening sky stretched over the blue star, a quiet navy blue sprinkled with stars. Although the ship was still sailing smoothly, there was a subtle tension in the air, an awareness of the storm lurking somewhere out of sight. Passengers had retreated to their rooms or gathered in small groups, casting occasional glances out to sea. The crew moved with careful, practiced calm, assuring guests that everything was under control. Emma and Mark, after a long day of updates and interviews, decided to step out onto the main deck. The cool breeze ruffled their hair as they leaned against the railing, looking out over the vast ocean. Despite the distant threat, the scene was breathtaking, a boundless stretch of water reflecting the dim glow of the stars above. Mark adjusted his camera, setting up for a shot. I don't think I've ever seen the ocean look this endless, he murmured, snapping a photo of the horizon. It's like we're the only ones left in the world. Emma watched him for a moment, then turned her gaze back to the ocean. It's strange, isn't it? She said softly. All of us out here together, miles away from everything. It feels like the universe shrinks down to just this. Mark lowered his camera, glancing at her thoughtfully. You're right. It's moments like these that make you think about life a little differently. They fell silent, letting the steady rhythm of the waves fill the space between them. Finally, Emma spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. Have you ever thought about what you really want out of life, Mark? I mean, beyond work and everything. What's your big dream? Mark considered her question, a rare vulnerability softening his expression. Honestly, I guess I've always dreamed of seeing the world, really seeing it, without always being behind the camera. I love photography, but sometimes I wonder what it would be like to experience things just as they are, no lens in the way. Emma smiled, surprised by his answer. You know, I've never thought about it like that. For me, it's always been about telling stories, showing people something bigger than their everyday lives. Mark gave her a curious look. So what's the big story for you, Emma? If you could tell one story, what would it be? She hesitated, thinking. I think I'd want to tell a story about connection, about how people from completely different worlds can come together, like we're doing now, showing people that, even when things get rough, they're not really alone. They looked at each other, the weight of their words lingering in the night air. Emma felt a warmth growing between them, a sense of understanding that went beyond words. The vast ocean around them suddenly felt less empty, and in that quiet moment, she realized how grateful she was to have him by her side. A soft rumble sounded in the distance, breaking their reverie. Mark glanced out over the water, his gaze narrowing. "Did you hear that?" Emma nodded, a slight unease creeping into her thoughts. The storm was coming, she knew it, but for now she allowed herself to stay in this peaceful moment, savoring the calm before the unknown. The first raindrop splashed down on the deck, cold and sudden, like nature's quiet warning. Within minutes, the drizzle escalated into a fierce downpour, and the calm ocean began to churn, with waves slapping against the hull of the Blue Star. Thunder rumbled through the dark sky, and a sharp, howling wind whipped across the ship, leaving no doubt the storm had arrived. The ship lurched suddenly, tilting as a massive wave struck its side. Passengers stumbled, clutching onto rails and each other, shouts and gasps rising above the roar of the storm. The lights flickered, then steadied, but the eerie dimness cast shadows that danced along the walls and floors, amplifying the sense of chaos. Emma grabbed onto the railing to keep her balance, scanning the deck for Mark. She spotted him a few feet away, his camera clutched tightly in one hand, the other braced against the railing. Catching her eye, he gave a quick, determined nod, and she knew exactly what he was thinking. Despite the danger, they had to keep recording, capturing every moment for those who wouldn't make it back. They stumbled toward the main hall, where people were gathering in confusion, many clutching life jackets and looking anxiously at the crew members, who were attempting to keep everyone calm. The ship's intercom crackled to life, the captain's voice steady but grave. "Attention, everyone. We are experiencing technical difficulties, but we have lifeboats ready. Please remain calm and proceed to the designated areas." Just as the announcement ended, the ship rocked violently, throwing Emma against a nearby wall. She felt her heart race as the floor beneath her seemed to shift, tilting at a sickening angle. Mark managed to reach her side, steadying her with one arm. "Emma, we need to get to higher ground," he shouted over the noise, his voice barely audible above the screams and crashing waves. Emma nodded, swallowing hard. "We can't stop now. People need to know what's happening. Even if they never see this broadcast, it's important." Together, they fought their way back onto the deck, where the storm was raging with an unrelenting fury. The communication system had gone dark, and the ship's once advanced technology now lay useless in the face of nature's power. Mark raised his camera, filming the blackened sky, the thrashing waves, and the terrified faces of those around them. He could see the desperation in their eyes, the silent prayers and whispered goodbyes as the ship continued its slow, inevitable descent. Emma turned the camera on herself, her face wet from both rain and tears. She took a shaky breath, her voice steady but laced with emotion as she began to speak. "This is Emma Lane, reporting from the Blue Star. To everyone watching, if you ever see this, know that we fought to the end. We wanted to share this story not just as journalists, but as fellow passengers. This ship was meant to connect us to the world, but tonight, we're alone in the storm." Just then, another wave crashed over the deck, knocking Mark's camera from his hands and sending him sprawling. Emma felt herself slipping as well, her fingers scrambling to find something, anything to hold on to. She watched, helpless, as people she had interviewed just hours before were pulled into the dark waters, their screams swallowed by the relentless sea. Emma and Mark locked eyes, a final, wordless understanding passing between them. Whatever happened next, they had done their part. They had captured not just a story, but the voices of people facing the unknown, clinging to each other in the face of impossible odds. As the blue star tilted one last time, Emma closed her eyes and held on tight, her final thoughts a silent farewell, one last broadcast sent into the storm. The blue star had tilted sharply now, its once grand decks flooded with seawater as it continued its slow, inevitable descent. The storm roared above, relentless, with winds howling and waves crashing down upon the ship. Through the darkness and chaos, Emma clung to Mark's side, their breaths coming in short, panicked gasps as they struggled to stay balanced on the shifting, slick deck. Realizing they had one last chance, Emma fumbled with Mark's phone, which he'd miraculously kept dry under his coat. She opened the live streaming app, knowing the signal was faint, but hoping it might reach someone, anyone, who could understand what had happened here. If they couldn't save themselves, perhaps their voices could at least tell the world about the courage of those around them. The video connected, the faint, shaky image showing Emma's tear-streaked face against the stormy backdrop. She steadied herself, holding the phone close as she spoke, her voice raw and filled with emotion. To everyone watching, this is Emma Lane. We're broadcasting from the Blue Star as she goes down. We tried to tell the story as it happened, to show you everything that was good and brave in the people here. Her voice caught, and she looked over at Mark, who gave her a reassuring nod, his hand squeezing hers. Tonight, I want you to know about the people I met, Emma continued, swallowing back tears. The families who laughed and dreamed of new beginnings, the couples who celebrated love, and the crew members who refused to abandon us. They stayed, even when they knew it would be their last act. The screen trembled as another wave crashed over the ship, spraying cold seawater over them both. Mark wrapped his arm around Emma, steadying her as she looked into the camera, her gaze fierce and determined. We thought we were invincible out here, with all our technology and strength, she murmured, her voice barely audible. But the truth is, we're all fragile, all of us, and maybe that's what makes life beautiful, knowing how delicate it is. She lowered the phone, glancing up at Mark, their faces inches apart. For a moment, the storm seemed to fade into the background, leaving just the two of them alone in a fragile, timeless silence. Mark touched her cheek, his hand warm despite the cold. If this is our last moment, I'm glad it's with you, he whispered, his voice barely heard over the crashing waves. Emma smiled through her tears, leaning into his embrace. Me too, she whispered back, closing her eyes and holding on to him tightly. Together they waited, feeling the ship shudder one last time beneath them. They faced the storm not as journalists or strangers, but as two people who had found something real, even in the face of an ending. The camera feed blurred and flickered, but their final message had been sent, carried out into the world on the fragile, fleeting waves of the storm.